first thing I did was I called all those guys and was like, man, like we've built this, we built Hudson O'Neal Racing or whatever you want to call it, and it's going good, but it's not like I'm laying in bed at night wondering like, oh my gosh, like we have to run good this weekend or we can't pay our guys or pay the tire bill, right?
Green flag in the air.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Hot Lappin' with Landman. I know it has been a while. You know what? Sometimes life just gets busy, and that's been my case the last couple, 2-3 weeks. Apologize for not getting anything out there, but been busy with life, taking care of the family and some other things, and sometimes time just gets away from you. So I don't quite do this, full-time for a living. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I hope you guys will understand that, but excited to be back on this week, and we've got a great guest. Let me tell you about it. Hudson O'Neal won the Knoxville Late Model Nationals last week down at Knoxville, Iowa. They had a tough weekend down there. They got upside down in a huge way Thursday night, totally junked a car, had to get the backup car down and get that thing prepared. And they ended up coming back and they won the Saturday night A-Main by over 8 seconds. So kudos to Hudson and the SSI gang for doing a great job down at Knoxville. Hudson was nice enough to come on the show this week, and I'm really excited to have him on. We're going to get to him here in just about 10 seconds or less. Got to do my shameless plug here that I do every week. If I can get you guys to hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, share my stuff out there, that's just going to help me get more stuff out to you, like I've said in the past. And I love taking the time to be able to do this. And hopefully as my schedule slows down a little bit, here in a couple of weeks, we'll be able to get back to a regular basis. But would appreciate it if you guys could do that if you have the time and if you like what you're seeing. Like I always say, let's not wait around any longer. Let's get Huddy in here. Let's hear what that guy has to say. All right, gang. So excited to have my second late model guy on the show, and Hudson O'Neal sitting at home. He said, getting ready for a big weekend coming up. And Huddy, thanks a lot. You okay if I call you Huddy during the show? Because I know that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. It's tough to get the late model guys on, and you were super about it, got back to me right away and showed up. So cool for that. And I'm hoping we can have a good time here.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So first of all, I always just like to check in a little bit, and I'm going to assume with the big race coming up this weekend, the people and I have a lot of sprint car guys that follow too, and I'm trying to get the late model side on. But big race going on in Brownstown, Indiana this weekend. It is the 40th annual. Is it the Jackson 100? Is that right? That the big Monday night, Saturday night. So how cool is it for you to be sitting just an hour away, your hometown track, coming off a big win at Knoxville last weekend, knowing you get to go race for big money again just down the road a ways?
Absolutely. Grew up racing at Brownstown in the crate cars and, watched my dad make tons of laps there. That was kind of his stomping grounds as well. And yeah, so it's always cool to be able to go back no matter what race it is, but being the Jackson 100, man, it just makes it super special. But yeah, coming off a big win last weekend, we got a little bit of momentum. So hopefully that helps us out.
Yeah, definitely. And I heard from a little birdie, and I don't know if we can talk about this or not, but I heard there might be another O'Neal racing this weekend. Any chance of that coming to fruition?
There is, but he's not a very big deal. So I don't, no, my dad's coming back. I shouldn't say coming back. He's raced a couple times, here and there over the last couple of years, but yeah, he's going to come back, race a Masters belt to car, and they're going to have a little bit of fun with it. They raced a couple weeks ago and ran all right. So they said they were going to go and have a little fun. So looking forward to watching him race. I haven't watched him race probably since the Jackson a couple of years ago.
Who knows? You might be watching him from behind. I know he hasn't forgotten his way around that place.
No, he can run around that place with his eyes blindfolded. But no, hopefully we get the opportunity to turn some laps together. That'd be awesome.
It would be. I was talking to, I got to be honest. I already told you this, but I talked to James Essex today because I needed a source to get some information about the guys that I'm going to talk to. And James says the ideal situation would be for you and your dad to be in the same heat race on the front row, starting side by side, and see how hard you two can drive that thing into turn one.
Yeah, it would be. I don't know who would lift first, but that would be awesome. I have so many memories of racing with my dad. Whenever I very first started racing late models in the Lucas Oil series, me and my dad were racing full time together. So I think I took that for granted a little bit. You don't think about those times happening until they're gone. And yeah, I for sure took a lot of those moments and didn't value them as much as I value those now. So man, if we could start on the front row of anything together, well, it's a B main, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I know you guys both come out at somebody's gonna be leading, but I know you're not gonna tear your stuff up. But I guarantee I would definitely tune in for that one myself. What I like to do, Hudson, when I get to get my guests on the show, is I like to talk about your beginning, how everybody had to have a way to get started in the racing game, and the answer for you is fairly obvious, but I'm sure with the interest that you followed of your dad and his great success, that you were probably grew up around the racetrack. But tell us a little bit about your first adventure of racing anything on wheels, be it a pedal bike or a go kart, or where did you get your start?
Well, I don't say this much counts, but I used to race some four-wheeler stuff at like the county fairs whenever I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. Did that, for a few years just as some fun. Um, and then my first full-size car, well, first I'd say competitive racing, anything really was, in 2011, I started down in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, racing pro trucks on asphalt. Lance Landers got us involved in that a little bit, and me and his son Gavin Landers raced those quite a bit for a couple years. We did that for about 2 years, and then I ran a Pro Late model on asphalt down around the New Smyrna, we're in the Speed Rome area. Ventured out just a little bit, and that was a lot of fun, man. Those days were I took for granted those days as well. I was so young, you don't realize, whenever you're that young, you're just doing it to do it. It's not. All I ever wanted to do was race, but I just don't think you understand the opportunities and everything that's going on whenever you're that young. I was 11 or 12 years old. The only, all I cared about was going around in circles, and I didn't really understand what, everything that was going on. So that was a lot of fun. Got to be really close with the Landers family through all that. Great friendship that have lasted till today. And then, obviously after that, we quit that in about 2013, 2014, and then we transformed into the crate late model and dirt stuff and never looked back.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on the Lance Landers thing. You say back then you're just doing it because you're a kid, and I
Yeah.
get to race, and I'm probably going to hang out with my buddies between races because I know what it was like raising kids racing too. So more worried about the big wheel races and everything else going off on the side. And I'm up, but could you have ever imagined that Lance Landers, who was just a guy at the racetrack, you got to such a great relationship, and how hard it is to beat his race team now.
Oh man. They Lance Landers, Double L Motorsports, man, they have built a powerhouse. And anytime you line up next to Jonathan, you definitely got to buckle down just a little bit and say, "Oh gosh, dang, I gotta get up on the wheel a little bit." But yeah, it's no, it's so cool because whenever, like you said, whenever I was a little kid, Lance was just another guy, and I never really thought much about it. But then whenever you look at him today, and obviously he's ultra successful in life, but as well with the race team and what he's built and what he's been able to sustain over the years, and I've gotten a little bit more insight over that the last year we hired Jason Durham, who was a longtime crew chief at Lance Landers Motorsports, and so yeah, it's just kind of a full circle deal. We've stayed tied together just on these little ends for a lot of years, and it's really cool.
So you jump back, yeah, and one thing that I learned was, heck, I don't even know, you're a young lad, really, when it comes to the game of super late model racing still, and you're very successful. So don't take that as a negative. But jumping back to your first super late model racing, and I think that was in 2016. You said you messed around with the crates and some other stuff. I assume that was right down in Brownstown where you cut most of your laps there, but talk about moving on to the super late models and the initial reaction to the change in the way you have to drive the car, how much more power there is, and I'm gonna guess how much stiffer the competition was.
Yeah, absolutely. I raced crate cars from the fall of 2014 till 2016, all the way through 2016. Um, it was September, so my car owner at the time and car owner currently, Todd Burns, SSI Motorsports. I was racing crate cars for Todd, and we got to the fall, early September, and they were trying to keep it a secret from me that he was wanting to go, get a super late model and try some super stuff, and yeah, and he wanted it to be a surprise for me. So he kind of kept it under wraps. And one day I walked into the shop, and there was a brand new car sitting there, and really you don't think much about it. The fenders are on it, and yada yada yada. So, well, as I got closer to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a Clemens super motor in this thing. And, so I walk up to it and I'm looking at it, and Todd's, over there laughing and giggling and yada, yada, yada. And so we talked about it, you want to go super? I'm like, well, yeah, I want to go super racing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we load up and we go to Brownstown. We were racing Brownstown every Saturday night. Actually, around here they have a Indiana Pro Late Model Series. It's just a small mini series for the pro late models, crate late model stuff, and we were running that. And so that was Brownstown and Central Indiana racetracks. Went to 5 or 6. But so we were racing around home every weekend, and so we took that car and I ran double. I ran the crate car and the super car that night, and I think I ran second in the supercar to Cody Mahoney that first night. And don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but we were on our way home that night. The first time I ever raced a supercar. And like, the way I explain it is whenever you get in something that fast from something as slow as a crate car, it's like tunnel vision. Like everything is going by and it's like, and you know what I mean? You don't have time to think about anything. So we're on our way home Saturday, and this is the week before the World 100. So we get back to the shop, and Todd's sitting there talking to me, and Todd's happy. We ran second, this and that, and he says, "Do you think that you can get around Eldora?" And I said, Todd, I don't know. I said, I think I might be able to run around there, but I don't know if I can race with those guys by any means. So he was, he said, what do you think we go and try it? And I'm like, well, all right, we'll go and try it. Well, I wasn't old enough. Sorry, Tony. Just
Yeah,
letting you
and
know
that's
that.
what, hang on. That's where I wanted to jump back, and I was trying to jump in here and ask this: how
Yeah,
old were you in 2016? Because we know the rule is, I believe, 16 at Eldora.
I was 15 at this point, but my birthday was on September 5th. Well,
Okay.
this Sunday race at Eldora was the Baltus Classic or the Appleseed or whatever is the Sunday leading up to the World.
Yep.
And well, my birthday was on Monday. This race is on Sunday. So
One
I'm
day.
like,
Okay.
yeah, I'm 15 and 364 days old. So we go in there and so we end up going to Eldora. Second super race ever. We're at Eldora for this Apple Cedar Baltus. I think it's a Baltus Classic. So we roll in there. I lie about my age, fill out the paperwork, yada yada yada. So we ended up uh, breaking in the heat race or something. Went to the tail. We missed the show by one spot. So we go home. Well, we made good lap times and this and that, and Todd was all happy. Well, what I'm getting at is, so we went to the World 100 that next week, and that was my third ever super race. Whenever we went to the World that next week.
And
I was old enough then, though, Tony. Sorry.
and I gotta also mention, I'm sure you haven't forgotten this, but I do happen to know that you did qualify second for the 100 on your, I believe, the to your dad in the first World 100. Is that correct?
Yeah, sorry, I was looking for a picture over here. I thought I had a picture in here, but yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, they call us boat week. I qualified second to my dad. I think it was on the Friday show or something, and they called us both up to the stage. This was whenever there was no AB group at Eldora. It was
Okay.
all everybody,
Oh,
120 cars qualified
yep.
against everybody. So qualified second to my dad, and they called us both to the stage and interviewed both of us, and we got a picture up on the stage. And yeah, it was really cool. I have the picture around here somewhere.
So I think Essex is pretty famous for tagging names on guys. And was that about the time maybe the New Deal got thrown out there?
Yeah, so the New Deal started whenever I was racing crate cars. That would have been
Okay.
2015, 2016 timeframe. Yep.
And I don't know if I hear it much. I don't watch. I love super late model racing, just so everybody knows. I watch it as much as I can, but I do lean towards the sprint cars.
Don't let him lie to you.
No, I do. I love them, but the thing of it is I don't hear the New Deal as much as I hear Huddy and maybe it's just me, but sometimes things kind of falter a little bit or just kind of run their course. But yeah, so and that's just the thing I remember about when you first came on the scene was the new deal.
Yep.
So you go to Eldora, and how'd you turn out on 16? Then you qualified well. How'd the rest of the weekend go?
We made both the shows, the prelim shows on Thursday and Friday, but we missed the big show. Went through a B main.
Was it? Do you feel it was because of lack of experience for you? You just got outdriven, and no disrespect when I say that, but your third time in a super at Eldora, the granddaddy of them all. Going 700 miles an hour with your hair on fire. Was it a little bit of that you think, or was it a good learning experience?
Yeah, it was a great learning experience. I think it was a little unrealistic to think that I was going to go there in my third or fourth super race ever and make the World 100. We were fortunate to make both the prelim nights. But yeah, so no, it was a great learning experience, and even whenever we didn't make the show, there was no bowing our heads or anything. We were just pumped to even be there. We never thought we'd be racing the World 100. If you would have asked us at the end of August, whenever we were on Saturday night racing a crate car, if we would be at the World 100, we'd tell you were crazy and you were lying to us.
You finished strong in 2016, I would say, by doing that. And I don't know how it went after that. If you guys did you guys race like you're at Brownstown, this big race that year, or how did that finish out the year?
Yeah, so we just ran around Brownstown. There is fortunately for us here in Central Indiana, there's a ton of racing as far as smaller series, regional series, and everything that happens. And you could race a supercar around here within 3 or 4 hours of the house every weekend. So that was awesome. But that was what we did at the end of 2016 after the World. We just tried to race a couple nights a week, and then we finished out our crate late model schedule as well, and then just race a supercar whenever we had some, or if they corresponded, or if we had an off day with the crate.
Yeah. So you double duty quite a bit there at the end of that year then.
Yes, absolutely.
2017 rolls around, and I honestly don't know. I got to ask, you guys go super late model only racing? Do the crates go away over the winter, or how did 2017 start?
2017 was my rookie year on the Lucas Oil Series.
And we know how that turned out, I think.
Yeah. So it was a very one could say Todd Burns is a little eager. He we definitely probably he was definitely a little premature on everything that he was definitely ready to go. That's for sure. That's the best way to put it. But yeah, so
Yep.
we got done in 2016. I probably ran probably 10, 12 super races in 2016, and then all of a sudden he had a bright idea. We were going to go to Speed Weeks and go Lucas Oil racing. So we did, and it was good. I didn't win a race my whole rookie year, but we won Rookie of the Year. I think my rookie class was Greg Satterley and Boom Briggs, so that was who I had to race with all year. And we
Boom
won.
was a rookie, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so we ended up winning Rookie of the Year, which was awesome. I don't even know where we finished in points, maybe like ninth or 10th or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, so no, it was yeah, it was a lot of fun and probably a little premature. And it felt like the world was ending a lot of days whenever you're out there racing against the best in the country and running 15th every night. But that's I feel like that's something everybody has to go through.
It is. You got to, and you're only as good as the competition you race against, too. That's one thing that I learned as a young lad, and I'm sure that that was probably tossed your way a couple times too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jumping 2017 though, it didn't end very bad, I don't think, for you, because I'm not sure if that was the first year, but I
Mhm.
think you guys showed up at a place in St. Louis with a roof on top of it, the good old dome in 2017, and I think you had a lot of fun there that weekend.
Yeah. That was my first ever, you'd call it maybe national touring win.
Yep.
We went to the dome, won one of the prelims, which was awesome. That was my biggest win ever at that point. And then whenever I think on Saturday we were running fourth maybe and had a left rear flat. And there, one of the only unfortunate things about that place is if you have a flat, you're done. So
Yeah.
that kind of shot us in the arm for the weekend. But it was a really good weekend, and that place is so magical, isn't it? It's a lot like the Chili Bowl or something for the sprint
You're
car.
exactly right. It is, and I think, and I just since we're on the subject of the dome, um, You gotta I'm guessing you probably have kind of a love-hate relationship with that place because, I think 2 years ago, you pretty much, put your car in a bread box and took it home after your preliminary night. I think, coming out of turn 2, there was some, significant damage done.
Yeah, yeah, there was a little fireworks, couple, yeah, 2 or 3 years ago with Carpenter, and, good thing is I think we brushed that under the rug, so we moved on from that, and then the next year that year I made, I think, 4 laps. I hot lap qualified, didn't make the first lap in the heat race. The next year I go back, I stall the motor hot lapping and knocked the whole rear clip off of it and only made, like, 2 laps that weekend. So, the dome hadn't been since I won that race. Those were the first couple times back since 2017 whenever I won that prelim.
Yeah.
So, overall, if you take it all, the dome hasn't been very nice to me, but, um and we went back last year I think we ran 8th.
Yeah. So I gotta ask because I've just seen the dome invitations have just started coming out, and I
Uh-huh.
know in the super late models you don't need an invite, but, plans for you guys to head over there again in December?
Yep, we're signed up, we're going.
All right, I'm gonna bring the porta power and a couple boxes of rivets, and I'll hang out with you guys all weekend.
Yeah, it might bring a bandsaw too.
Yeah, I have one of those too, absolutely. So no, and I hope you know that's all just in fun. But I think though I've been there twice. I think the place is just like you described it. Similar to the Chili Bowl atmosphere, especially on Saturday night. You get down to those last chance races and that A main, and the crowd is just crazy. So a lot of fun there for sure. All right, so we're going to move on to 2018, and I think in that first Lucas Oil win's got to be coming up pretty quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, so my first Lucas Oil win in 2018 wasn't until June. Father's Day weekend, actually. It was at Magnolia for the Clash at the Mag as Lucas Oil race.
Yep. And talk about the relief that probably you just take a deep breath, you soak it all in, but they always say that first one's the hardest one to get. Would you say that applied to you too, or did things kind of slow down a little bit after you got that first victory under your belt?
I'm not gonna say they slowed down, but they definitely didn't speed up too much. But yeah, no, they definitely after you get the first one, I think it's more just for your mind and for your um oh, drawing a blank. Confidence that you
Yeah.
can that you can do it. Because whenever you go a year and a half and you've tried and tried and tried and no, everything you do seems like it's not working, and then the situations where you thought, oh, this might be the night, and then it's just slowly ripped away from you. Yeah, I think just more than anything, it's for your confidence that like, okay, I can actually win one of these, and I think my next win after so that was Father's Day weekend in June and my next win was August, at the North South 100 weekend. It was a Ralph Latham Memorial.
Yep. And I think that was the first night. Was that a prelim win night?
That was a prelim win. Yeah, and then I think we ended up having a pretty good showing that weekend in the North South too. I think we ran second or third, and and then after that I had my shoulder surgery, so I was out. That was my last race in 2018.
Yeah, and I do happen to know because like I said, I got to do my homework, and I believe Ricky Weiss won that year because I saw you on the podium with him in the picture. So I think you ran second. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was a good win.
If
Talking about the show, go ahead,
Jason gets mad at me, I am actually doing something. Sorry, Jason.
Jay.
I'll call.
Oh, is it? We'll make sure that we point that out too.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey, and
okay.
okay, so on to the shoulder injury deal, and tell me just a little bit about what happened to your shoulder that you had to go in and get the surgery to start with, and how that may have affected your future also.
Yeah, so my shoulder surgery, what they told I had a torn labrum. So not that big of a deal, but I did have to go in there and have surgery, and they did say it was a little bit of a genetic, I guess. They call it like a born loose joint, like I have loose joints since I was, genetic or whatever. So,
Yeah.
I was kind of more susceptible to that kind of thing. But yeah, so I think I got in a wreck at Gaffney in 2017. And
Okay.
I remember after that, I started having a little bit of problems with it, like popping out of socket and stuff.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and finally we were at Fairbury in 2018, and I had kind of lived with it, over the last year leading up to that point, and then, like, it finally started getting so bad, like, every time I raced, it was popping out of socket and stuff. So finally, I was like, "All right, I need to go get checked out," and went to the specialist here in Indiana at IU and ended up, yeah, had a torn labrum, and then it was pretty painless, really. They went in there and fixed it, and I have no problems really with that anymore. Now, my family, the O'Neal family, is terrible for joints, like
Okay.
shoulders, knees, everything. So I'll have some trouble somewhere down the road. It just might not be with that again.
Yeah. So, well, a suggestion, just keep it off the wall and keep it on all four, and those sudden violent stops will help prevent that from happening also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That'd be nice.
yeah. Yeah. So, hey, I want to talk before we move on to my next subject. I want you to talk a little bit about SSI. People hear the name SSI and the team, but talk about Todd and his company and what they have done in the involvement of racing, because they're a very big, huge part of not just what you do right now, but of the super late model racing game in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So Todd Burns and Vicky Burns, his wife, it started. So what they do, they own a company called Subsurface of Indiana, SSI, and they are like an underground boring, contracting, do dirt work, site prep, all that stuff. So, um, anyway, so in 2016, they started. They live so where I'm from in Martinsville, Indiana. They live 15 minutes from my dad's house, and
Okay.
he owned a crate car and Jared Galt that raced at Brownstown the same time I did racing crate cars, and he's seen me race a couple times. Got together. He asked me and my dad if I'd be interested in coming doing some racing for him, crate cars at the time in 2000, at the beginning of 2016, and we started that, and then raced the crate cars, through
Yeah.
2016 super racing, and then it blossomed into all that. But yeah, so at
So
one time,
were you the first guy that I think his son may have raced. Now tell me if I'm wrong on that. But were you the first guy that he really owned a super late model for and kind of hit the road with a little bit?
owned a super late model 4, yeah. He owned some
Okay.
crate cars before I got there, but
Yeah.
super late models, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so he started super racing and at the end of 2016, and then, we raced 2017, 18, 19, um, on the Lucas Oil Series, and then me and him split in 2019, um, and he started racing with way back up in 2018, whenever I had my shoulder surgery. Ricky was substituted in a little bit for me and ran a few races. And then in 2019, I raced full time. And then when me and him split, Ricky came in and raced, I think on and off in 2020. And then 21 was the first year he ran full time for Todd.
Okay. So, and I guess I don't know, so I should say that. I don't know how you and Ricky, get along.
Uh-huh.
That's where I'm kind of out of the loop on some of the things. But do you think Ricky coming in and subbing for you while ultimately you had to go get your shoulder fixed might have advanced that deal for him ending up in the SSI car, or was there other factors involved?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that I'm really and truthfully, I'm sure that it did probably help him get that deal after I left, but I didn't really look at that in a negative way. So my crew chief at the time, Talon Center, him and Ricky were pretty good friends. And whenever I got hurt, obviously Todd had full time guys there that, you know, he
Yeah.
didn't want to just sit at the shop. So they I think, I think Talon TC had brought up, maybe put Ricky in, and then they ended up doing that. And I think that I don't know, they probably ran 15 races or so at the end of the year, and then that helped me with car owner points as well because they ran
Yeah.
the rest of the Lucas deal, and that kept us in car owner points to get provisionals, for the following year,
Yeah.
which was great. So yeah, I mean, I do think that it probably did help, the connection be made and for future with Ricky and Todd. But I don't know that really any of that was probably being looked at the time when all that was
Yeah.
happening.
Okay, so 2019, I'm going to assume then you came back with SSI and Todd and ran that year with the Lucas deal too.
Yeah, 2019 we ran. Yes, I raced with Todd uh, all the way through that year, and then after Charlotte in 2019 we split.
Okay, so just quickly, but the split, was it mutual? Did you have something else lined up where it was just time to maybe just take a little break, or how'd that go down?
No, it was not mutual. No, he. Yeah, I mean, just to be 100% honest with you, I had a lot of growing up to do. I was a young kid that um, had the best of the best crate cars and the best supercars, and I wouldn't say I was cocky or arrogant. I just needed to understand what I had, and I think he's seen that a little bit. Like, I needed to go through some struggle and go through some hardships and, to be a better person and to understand what was going on and everything. And that was exactly what happened. I left there and bumped around for a year there or 2, and yeah, and it was definitely what I needed as a person to be able to, grow up and understand what I had, the opportunities that I had, and because up until that point, I just, you know, being my dad's kid and him having so much pool and stuff in the late model world, it was kind of, I just had good stuff, since I started. So yeah, it was great for me. He's seen obviously being the wiser and being in business and a business like minded. He's seen the writing on the wall that I needed to have some venture outside of SSI Motorsports.
And I appreciate you. It's noble for you to say that, and sometimes it's hard for people to recognize that. Hey, maybe it's not them, maybe it's me, or some things like that. And I'm not saying that's exactly was all you, but I'm just saying is for you to come out and say, hey, I needed to figure out my stuff. It shows the maturity and the learning that you've already accumulated as a very young adult. So I appreciate you sharing that with us there.
Yeah, so
But
yeah,
ultimately, go
I'm not
ahead.
gonna say for the first year or 2 that I thought that way, but after after I grew up and started to understand, then I was like, "Oh, okay, I see the big picture now." Yeah, yeah.
So obviously you're going to go racing in 2020, but I think you're probably looking for a ride saying that, you pretty much said it wasn't my decision. And what does that look like for Hudson O'Neal going into 2020? Are you nervous? Are you scared? Are you on the phone or how's that looking?
Yeah, yeah, it was frightening because truthfully, I never really thought of seeing myself anywhere other than SSI. It was right next to home, and me and Todd started together, and, I just maybe being selfish, I just kinda thought, "Hey, this is something that maybe will last forever." So whenever, your world comes crashing down like that and you've never had another opportunity or ride or anything outside of that, you're like, "Oh, no, what are we gonna do now?" And so we ended up going to, we ended up, meeting with Masters Built and the Masters Built chassis, and we did that through the middle of the year and we just kind of, we just didn't, nothing really went great. Great people. Tater and Geraldine Masters are just absolutely amazing people, and still probably some of my best friends today. Love them to death. And but we just didn't have a great venture together through 2020, and then had a little raced a little bit with actually my girlfriend's dad was kind of interested in racing, and he told me one day I'd quit Masters Built, which was probably dumb. I quit with no plan of what I was gonna do in the future, and so I was looking, trying to find something out. I really wasn't worried about Lucas Oil Racing or anything like that. I was just trying to get something lined up for the following year, and, Craig Sims, my, uh, fiance's dad, came to me, and he's like, "Hey, I ordered a rocket chassis today." And I said, "Do," and I said, "Do what?" He said, "Yeah, I ordered a rocket chassis day." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, since you're in a situation where you don't really have anything going on, I'd appreciate if you drive it." So we did that, for the rest of 2020, and we won. I think we won a couple races in 2020 on the Lucas Series, and it was, yeah. So those were the ups and downs times we were talking.
Quick question. Your soon to be father-in-law, had he owned any type of race car in the past, or was this like a super hobby that we're just going to take on all of a sudden?
Yeah, no, he never owned anything in the past. Obviously, his family, his dad had raced, his brother had raced,
Okay.
like street stocks and stuff around home, but he had never owned any type of race car leading up to that.
So you don't just buy a car, you probably got to buy a motor or two, and then you got to have plenty of other parts. So like I've used the word noble a lot here, but very, very probably surprising and noble of him to step up and help you out like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. It was I was definitely in a time of need right there, and I think he kind of sensed that, and he knew that he could probably jump in and help and be a big part of it. And yeah, it was definitely one of the more fun times of racing for sure.
So I assume if you start a team, and I'm just going to call that a local team running Lucas Oil, and because it's not a big corporate deal, so I don't know if that's what you guys would refer to it as, but you got to have guys to go help you on the road too. Obviously, I know the tires is a full time job for what you guys do out there. I've been around it, I've seen it. You need one guy just to work on tires, but you need a crew chief too. And did that give you an opportunity to become more hands on the race car than you'd ever been in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd always kind of sort of been hands on through it all, but um there's nothing like being thrown in a situation where you have to do everything. And that was definitely kindly what happened. I had never really worried about like I guess a good thing is like I never really worried about, setting the oil pressure on one of my motors before or anything like that. So because I had always had a crew chief that, had kind of always done that small stuff, and then we would talk more about shocks and springs and yada yada yada. So whenever you get in a situation, where you got to do everything, you definitely pick up a lot of stuff really quick, and it was good for me. That goes back to learning to be appreciative of things, and whenever you're doing it all, and I was racing on Lucas, trying to do that, and by myself, it was tough, and I had some guys that would come and help. You talked about the help and everything, and had some part-time guys that would be a part of it and stuff, but I was still doing most of it all myself.
Yeah, so that makes the guy sit up a little bit taller in the old seat at nights too, I bet,
Yeah,
huh?
absolutely, absolutely it does.
Yeah. So, if I remember right, the Masters built car was a yellow 71, I want to say. And then when your soon to be father, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, Sims, right?
Craig. Yep.
Craig Sims. Yep. Sorry, Craig. I apologize if you're watching. And you guys broke out the XR1, the white 71 car, and like I said, obviously it was fast out of the box because it was amazing how you just kind of took right off with that thing too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that goes out to to Mark Richards and everybody. They were definitely a big help through that time. Whenever we bought that race car, he was very, very hands on with me to be able to help me and make sure I was headed in the right direction and everything. And anytime I had any questions or anything like that, they were always right there, just a phone call away. And they were definitely a big part of our success through the end of 2020 there.
So 2021, I have a note wrote down here, Double Down Motorsports. And tell me
Yep.
if I'm right or wrong or there. And then tell me, all your late model listeners know about this, but tell the rest of us about Double Down Motorsports and how you got going with those folks.
Yeah, so obviously through I bounced and bounced around there a little bit through 2020 trying to figure out where I needed to be at, and departing SSI, and I ended up at Roger Sellers and Double Down Motorsports. And he man, he is so awesome. I didn't know him really then. I knew him a little bit speaking to him at the racetrack and things, over the course of 2019, 20, leading up to that point. But he called me at the end of 2020 and talked to me a little bit. And Shannon Buckingham was stepping away, and um, Shannon Buckingham was the driver for Double Down Motorsports for several years leading up to 2021. And
Okay.
I went down there and met with him at the end of 2020, and we talked about it, and yeah, and then he hired me, and we took off in 2021 and had a lot of success.
Dude, you had a lot of success. 11 wins, and I see like a topless for 40 grand, a show me for 30. And those are a couple of the bigger ones. Fairbury World of Outlaw prelim. Um, I don't know. For me, that looks like a pretty good season.
Yeah, yeah, for me, it definitely was. I was 20 years old and, went down there and had I had a great crew, with, Mason Bavard, Eric Weber, and, Trevor Crittenden. It was us 4, and I lived in Tennessee. That's where Double Down Motorsports is located in Moorestown, Tennessee, and man, it was, yeah, it was a lot of fun. We were running up and down the road and just trying to do the best we could, and still had rockets, and yeah, it was, 2021 was probably the first year that I gained a lot of confidence in myself that, like, okay, I can win some of these big races, and, yeah, that was one of the best years I've ever had to date.
Yeah. So you come back in 2020, excuse me, you come back in 2022 with the same team intact. And that's got to be kind of reassuring going into the season, knowing, hey, we're coming off a really good season. We're going to start with this, and things appear to be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever we, fired off in 2022, we fired off and went through speed weeks and, all the way through the first part of the year. And we weren't having all the success that we had in 2021, but we were still running all right. We were clicking off some wins here and there, not near as many, but, um, yeah, we were still right there, all around the top 5. And we just lacked a little bit, and we needed to be a little bit better, and we worked hard through that whole year to try and get better, and we continually progressed throughout that year, and ended up, by the end of the year, we were kind of back to where we were in 21, winning some races, and had a good showing at the World 100 and the Dirt Track World Championship at the end of the year. And yeah, that was so much fun in my racing career to have all those guys. They were such great people, and still talk to, all of them today. So it's, yeah, that was a lot of fun around that time in my life.
I want to throw in at the end of the year that good old World 100 race, which I know how important that is to all of the late model guys. And I'll tell you what, most of the racing world, because we all stop pay attention to what's going on out there that weekend. So, and I see you got a preliminary win there in 2022 also with the Double Down team. And tell me, was that your first ever win at Eldora? Or had you snapped something else off before that?
Yes, that was my first. No, no, I think I won it in 2019. I won a prelim night there.
Okay.
Yep,
Um, you might have.
yep,
Uh, yep.
2000.
Okay. So, but you go to the World 100 and you win a prelim night. That's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
tell me about your relationship with Eldora Speedway by the time 22 years old, or not 22 years old, 2022. You've matured a lot in your racing. I'm sure it wasn't nearly as ghastly as the first time you rolled in there with SSI and those guys. But talk a little bit about that win that night.
Yeah, so, uh, that was the first time, I won there in 2019 and then bumped around there for a while and had some good runs, had some bad runs, and whenever we went back in 22, I had a really good showing there in 21, was one of the top point guys in 21. Um, I ended up having to well, they rolled a 6 or something on the wheel, and I had to start 6th in the heat race, and I took a provisional, and I drove from 20th to 4th, I think, in 21, and then we went back in 22 and picked right back up where we were in 21 and had a lot of great runs, and I think that was a million year as well. So it, yeah,
Yep.
Eldora to me has always been so magical. I remember going there whenever I was a kid, and we would set in turn 3 and 4, and whenever they didn't have prelim nights, they would unload on Friday and qualify. You had 2 rounds of qualifying, and each round was 1 lap. And me and my cousin would set up there, and my brother, we would set up in the suite, and we would time them on stopwatches and see who could get closest to the time. Man, I remember whenever I was like 8 years old, we would be rolling over the hill at Eldora, and you come up to the flat where all the campers are, and I'd be like hanging out the window wanting to look and just so excited. It's like going to Disney World. And I carry, obviously a little bit of that as you go there, you lose a little bit of that, but man, it's not very far from that the way I feel about it today. I love Eldora Speedway, and a lot of times it can feel straining. It's one of those places where you kind of either love it or hate it. And fortunately, I've been able to win some races there and grow to love it. And those wins there get me through all the times I hate it.
That's a good explanation. So 2022, you guys had like you said, you finished at the end of the year the way you thought you were rolling in 2021. It just took a while to get there. But obviously, a phone call was made sometime, and I don't know when it was. And it doesn't matter to me. You can maybe refresh my memory if you want, but you get a call from Mark Richards and an opportunity to drive the Rocket House car. And tell me a little bit about how you guys got together, how it went down, and what your emotions were at that time.
Yeah, well, I had been racing rocket cars since the end of 2020. So, um, they were obviously having Brandon Shepherd was departing. He was going to do he was going a different way. And so that kind of left the house car team up for grabs. And I didn't really have any idea of, um, that I was even in the running for that. And when Mark called, he called and, I'll never forget it. He said, "Well, what do you think about coming and driving the blue one?" And, and I was like, well, obviously I was on cloud nine because that's, the Rocket One is one of the most historic rides in all of dirt racing. And so obviously we talked about it and everything. And that was the ride that nobody can pass up. And so the first thing I did whenever I got off the phone with Mark was I called Roger and, um, and I talked to him about it, and he never put it down for a second. He was like, "Huddy, if you think that you have an opportunity to better yourself, or if you think that you'll have some more success in that, then that's what you need to do, and I'll support you through anything." And I think that says a lot about the person that Roger Sellers is as well. And yeah, so I ended up taking the Rocket One ride as obviously, and it was, one of the probably more bittersweet moments in my life because I was accepting a ride that, I always wanted, but it was at the same time giving up what we had at Double Down Motorsports, and probably one that I regret more today um than anything was, leaving those guys, man. Those guys are great people, and especially Roger and everybody. And Roger's done great things with Moran, so that's awesome to see. But yeah, so we went on and did at the end of 2022, went on to embark on the Rocket One journey.
Just a quick question for me, probably because I'm more curious, more curious than anyone. Did you ever actually reach out to Mark in the one car, or was it just something that they kind of reached out to you and it kind of blew your doors off when you got that call?
No, they reached out to me. I never inquired about it or anything. Obviously, I'd probably hoped about it, but never. No,
Yeah.
we never had any conversations leading up to it.
Okay. So, and I want to say, I think you guys even went and tested at the end of 22 or something with those guys or something. I'm not sure if you ever raced anything, but you come out of 2023, and I got to say, man, you did come out swinging.
Yeah, we came out gangbusters. We were really, really good. 23 was the best year I've ever had in a race car, ever. We won a lot of races and won a lot of big races and had a great speed weeks in 23 and came out of there. I think we were leading the soul points whenever we left speed weeks in 23, and we were ranked number 1 on the polls. And yeah, it was going the way I hoped it would.
And working, and the thing is, you know what I say? I don't know anybody in the late model world, but there's a couple guys I do know, and I know Danny, and I know
Uh-huh.
Joel,
Yep.
and Mark, and
Yep.
and those guys, and talk a little bit about the crew over there with Mark, just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean they're probably one of the best teams in dirt racing. How knowledgeable they are about their jobs, and as passionate as they are about racing, it's pretty amazing, really. to just to be around it and see it and everything and the pride that they take in their work. And it's really cool. And Mark included. Mark's been in business a long, long time, and this has been his life. And he's dedicated a lot of years to this sport. And it shows it whenever you walk in there and look at all the checks on the wall.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't wanna forget Austin either. I know I forgot his name there, but, they've
Yeah,
been 3 staple holds with Mark forever,
forever.
and so,
Yep.
like I said, yeah, I love those guys, and, so it's just, the one group that I'm lucky enough to have just a little bit of knowledge about late models with, but, you guys like I said, you guys, you win the Lucas Oil Championship that year.
Uh-huh.
You finished 2nd in the Castrol Racing Night, and that was a very, very close, I think, down to the last race also, if I remember right, to Brandon.
Hmm.
And XR Series, you guys ran a lot, and you look at the money you guys won, and that's not counting the points championship money, but 100 for XR deal, 56, 50, 23, 23. Like I said, it was a dream season for a driver, you would think.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was, it was an amazing year. And to win the World 100 and win all the races that we did, and won $100,000 at Kokomo with the XR series, and that was pretty amazing too. And 50,000 at Port Royal, and yeah, and then we won championship on top of that, and that was awesome. And it came down to that last lap pass that I always see with us and Moran. And yeah, no, it was nothing short of special. All of us are proud of what we did that year. And no matter how it all turned out, that was a year that none of us will ever forget. And it was I think it was probably the year that put me really on the map.
Exactly. And I just got to remind you, another thing that was really awesome about that year 2023 was Speed Week at Volusia. You got to park beside Donnie Schatz and
Yeah,
Landman and hang out with them until we blew our motor up and went home.
yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah,
To me, that was the best part. But
that's right.
anyway, so a lot of fun that night or that week. But you start 2024 off. Hang on, I want to jump back because you said you won 50 grand at Port Royal.
Uh-huh.
And I love Port Royal, and I watched the sprint cars there. I mean, I just sent a Snapchat out to all my buddies today of me on my riding lawnmower because I rubbed the right rear up against the neighbor's fence and left a big black mark,
Uh,
and said, I'm banging the board just like Anthony Macri would out there because he's the best out there. But compare Port Royal, which is known as the Speed Palace, to a lot compared to Speedwise and tech how technically you have to be compared to like Eldora or another super fast place like Volusia.
Yeah, well, Port Royal is probably one of the only half miles that we go to that has that's the longest straightaways we go to of anywhere. And that's probably the fastest we go all year. Is whenever you get to the end of the back straightaway, turn off into 3, you are hauling the mail at Port Royal. And it's a lot of fun, and especially whenever it gets a little bit of a cushion or something around the fence, man, you rip the fence. And it can be, and then there's times it slows down, and you got to be really, really smooth and easy, and a lot like Eldora. Eldora can be that way both ways too. There's a lot of times we can run against a fence and knock the deck out of it for 100 laps, and then there's times whenever you got to slow down and you won't even think about going to the fence. So there's a lot of versatility in both of those racetracks, and I think that's the reason why late models run so good around those places.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on that since you brought Port Royal up.
Yeah.
So you get through 2023 with a heck of a year with Mark and those guys, and then you start off 2024, and I don't remember if you guys were just kind of mediocre to start or whatever, but I'm gonna say it was an announcement that kind of shocked not just the late model world, but the dirt track world that you were going to step away from the ride and go a different direction. And tell us just what you can about what the scenario was and why you moved on and how things went from there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we started out 2024, similar to the way we did in 23. Had a great speed weeks, and it was it was looking like it was going to be another great year. And we had our problems. We just we were just struggling to get along. Really, that was the extent of it. There was no nothing other really than that. We were just struggling to get along and stay fluent and continuity between the team and everything, and that's sometimes it's just what happens. Great teams don't sometimes the best situations don't work out, and that's just that was that situation. And so whenever we talked about it post speed weeks, I had mentioned to him that I was that at the end of the year, at the end of 2024, I was going to go my separate way. And there was, just some things that happened, and we ended up not going all the way to the end of 2024, but that was where my original plan was. And then yeah, it just kind of put us both in a bad spot, in March to have split, and neither one of us had any kind of plan to move forward. So it was tough to kind of guide through that, but it was probably one of the bigger that was probably the one of the bigger moments in my racing career that was like, "Oh my gosh, like we just had all this success, and this isn't going very good, and what do we do?" and all this stuff. And it was just not a great situation. As good as Mark and Joel and Danny and Austin are, they're great people and great to work with. It just wasn't working out.
Yep. And I appreciate you for touching on that. A lot of people have often wondered, and it's just, you know what, why not go directly to the source and say, "Buddy, oh, that's fine. We love dogs. Dog,
Yeah.
if we don't get one or two dog barks per show, then we're not up to snuff." So,
Yep, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah. So don't worry about that. We usually get a couple cell phone calls too and stuff like that. So, like I said, we're not too worried about the professional side of this deal. We're just trying to have some fun. So, 2020, and like I said, thanks again for being open about that.
Huh?
But 2024, obviously, you're not done racing. Hell,
Right.
Huddy wants to go. Let's go find some dirt and let's go find something to do. Talk about, what do you do? Because I'm going to assume you probably weren't assuming that that you guys were going to part ways as soon as you did. And so that probably kind of puts you in an odd spot also. So tell us about moving forward, the immediate days after that happened.
Yeah, so obviously whenever I came up to my conclusion that it was probably best to go our separate ways with Rocket, I thought, all right, well, we'll go till the end of the year, and then that'll give us some time for both of us to figure out what we're gonna do and this and that. Well, and then it comes to an abrupt stop, and you're like, oh no, what are we gonna do now? So um it ended up Kevin Rumley called
Oh, that's right.
and said, and just made the offer like, hey, like if you want to continue to try and keep your points up with Lucas Oil, I'd be interested in running the points races, and that'll keep you going until you can, get something else rolling. And so that was a blessing in disguise. How I know Kevin, because it wasn't just a call out of the blue that's from somebody I never met before. I known Kevin for a long time. He was around my dad whenever my dad was at Clint Boyer Racing. Kevin was around at that
Yeah.
time a little bit, and then in 2019, whenever we had Longhorns, Kevin had a big part in that. And so it was kind of a relationship there, a subtle relationship, but there was something there. And then so we started racing in March of 20 or March of last year, 24, and yeah, last year, and ran some races on and off, and then decided that I was going to try and get my own deal up and running, which was a dumb idea to, to say the least. It was a great idea, but not very financially smart on my end. But yeah, so we did that until I got my deal up and rolling.
Yeah. So, um, let's just say you already said wasn't a smart decision or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
but not to be outdone, Huddy says, "Hold my beer" on the Rocket One car, and the announcement comes out that you're driving, and that Ricky Thornton Jr. and SSI have parted ways.
yeah.
And things happen. Sometimes teams just don't work out anymore, and that's what ultimately would happen with Ricky and Todd, right? And and all of a sudden, Huddy's getting a phone call. I'm assuming this is how it went down. You can tell me a little bit different how that went. And once again, your name's all over the internet because people talk. and and these us race fans are passionate about what goes on out there. And it's like, man, but talk a little bit about how that went down and how it's progressed, because obviously it's progressed very well.
Yeah, yeah, it has. So whenever I had my deal in last year, and we got it going, and I did that for 3 or 4 months, and that was a terrible business decision on my part. It was not. I had a lot of help, with some great sponsors, and Wheeler Metal. A lot of the people you see on my race card today are the same people that helped me then. Wheeler Metals, Merrill Bonding, Bobcat of Batesville, all those great people. And I think that, through all that, I kept, they were such a big part of my program that, um, whenever the whole deal with Ricky and Todd happened, and they split ways, and then I was offered the SSI ride, obviously, before I even took it. First thing I did was I called all those guys and was like, man, like we've built this, we built Hudson O'Neal Racing or whatever you want to call it, and it's going good, but it's not. Like, I'm laying in bed at night wondering, like, "Oh my gosh, like, we have to run good this weekend or we can't pay our guys or pay the tire bill," right? That's good.
Hmm.
So, and it just wasn't any fun. It was taking the fun out of racing for me, and it was very, very tough. And so whenever I called them and said, "Hey, I had this opportunity at SSI," they were all like, "All right, yeah, you can't pass it up," So we ended up doing it, and it was, and now it's turned into be something great. But yeah, definitely whenever we did it, it caught a lot of backlash, about I stole Ricky's ride, or it was a setup, or all this stuff. And, you know, I, it, it's so crazy how stuff gets lost in translation. And me and I think a lot of that talk came from because me and Todd are really close. We were close, even whenever we split in 2019, we kept a good relationship all the way through then. And whenever I had my deal, Todd let me use his, because the one thing that I needed that I couldn't afford or didn't have or in my racing program was a hauler, and they had a old hauler that was sitting there that they were trying to sell, and he lended that to me to let me use it. And so through that, I can understand how that looks bad, that it's a setup, yada yada yada. But yeah, it was just an unfortunate happening between driver and car owner that that I don't wish on anybody, because it put Ricky in a really bad situation, and Todd. I know it hurt Todd pretty bad to for it to come to that. And then, in a way, even though it was good for me to have the opportunity to go back there, it put me in a really bad position because I had crew guys too. And I had Nick Hardy, and his name was Steve Baker, oddly enough, not the one that
Not
crossed
the Steve Baker,
Steve Baker, the
but the
one.
other Steve Baker.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, so I had those 2 crew guys that I was paying, and, even though it was, some weeks it was hard to pay them, they were still really close to me. And Nick ended up going to SSI with me, but I had to get rid of, I had to I had to let go, Steve Baker, and that was really, really tough for me because I really thought a lot about Baker, and it was just a bad situation kind of for everybody at the beginning. And obviously it's a great deal. And but there's a lot that came with it. And then on top of that, everything that happened and all the social media, and Todd took it hard. And it's hard to go to the racetrack and be focused whenever my fiance's at the t-shirt trailer and people are saying rude stuff to her, and it was just it was such a bad deal. And it definitely took all the fun out of racing for a few months. And then obviously, like racing always is, somebody turned somebody over the next week, and it kind of started to fade a little bit. But um it definitely was a rocky patch there for a couple months. And still today, there's still, there's some booze and stuff in there sometimes, and some of them are still from that, but it's getting better.
And that's one thing I think I've noticed is the super late model fans are unbelievably passionate. And I say that in a good way.
They are.
but loyalty is so
Yeah.
crazy. You still have people that are diehard Bloomquist fans, and I say that in a respectful way. But
Yeah.
Scott had his glory days, heck, 15, 20 years ago. And so it's crazy that it comes to that. And I would agree with you that the social media makes anybody fearless because they don't have to look you in the eye and tell you what they're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not all bad. I think that it brought, at the end of the day, my Rocket deal brought a lot of eyes to the sport, and then this deal brought a lot of eyes to the sport. And I really think that some of it played hand in hand because there was a lot of I'm just not the guy that's going to get out there and make my case known and preach my side of the story and this and that, and I don't think there's any need for that. And so I think whenever me and Rocket split, that there was a lot of turmoil in that, and obviously, social media makes the narrative of that. Why did
Yep.
this happen and why did that happen? Well, and then you take 5 or 6 months later, this happens. Well, and then it just kind of, everybody's like still kind of in the back of their mind think, well, this guy just had this happen, 5 months ago. So, and then this is tied to it, and so
Yeah.
I think it was just it was a bad time for me for public image, I guess is what you would say. But I think
And that
go ahead.
that's something you just can't control. And
Yeah.
that's like I said is I see a lot of it. I'm so addicted to dirt track racing on both, like I said, the sprint car side, I'm obviously tight with Donnie Schatz. A lot
Yep.
of people who watch my broadcast know that. It's been a pretty crazy month or so,
Yeah.
okay? And then I can relate to what you don't want to be a villain. You
Right.
just want to go out, race, and have fun.
Yep.
Make a living.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I got asked at Knoxville. They were like, "You kind of have this moniker of the villain. Do you like that?" And I'm like, "No, like I don't like that at all. I don't want to be the villain. Some people can be the villain, like not calling anybody out, but like Tyler Erb isn't the villain by any means, but he can play into that kind of thing because he's got the personality for it. And truthfully, I don't have the personality for it. I just not that I have a bad personality. I would just rather laugh and be and have some fun and not be any type of confrontation. And that's just me. And yeah, so I don't know. People are still gonna believe whatever they want, and me and Ricky are good. Me and Ricky are polite whenever we see each other, and I don't have a problem with Ricky. I didn't, all the way back to 2018 whenever he subbed for me. That was a great deal, and we got to know each other well through that, and it's just unfortunate that we've ended up in some bad situations together. And yeah, so I don't have any problem with the Thornton family, and I don't know that they do. I don't think they have a problem with me. It's just it's just things that happen, and it's part of racing. And unfortunately, whenever you have social media the way it is, they play into it as well, and it's conspiracies and this and that, and it's just racing needs to be. I know that drama is the clicks and the clickbait and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm just a racer and I'm here to have fun and I just want to race and mind my own business.
Thank you. Perfectly said. Let's move on. Obviously you've been with SSI now since then. Things have cooled down or whatever you want to call it. And man, you guys, let's just look at the past 5, 6 weeks. Getting hot at the end of the year again. Um, well, first of all, you go to Knoxville and you destroy a car.
Yeah.
First night out. And I know that, yeah, people talk about Knoxville as let's be obvious, JD's not a big fan of the place. And
Mhm.
and the place, obviously, nobody realizes, was it Thursday night? It rained all day at that place. I
Yeah.
think they did as much as they could to get the place widened out. And you get hooked, I think, was it by Dalton Wilson, who's trying to make a move, and you're coming around. It was just two guys being at the wrong place. But man, you killed that car.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. The over engine bar was all in a U and the frame rails are laying on the motor. The fuel cell is looks like a crushed can. Like it was a really violent wreck, and it was all I wanted. I don't ever want anything more than that. That was plenty for me.
Yeah. But then you come back 2 nights and Knoxville did a great job. I thought they gave you a great racing service the next 2 nights. And you come back and I didn't get a chance to watch it. I had planned on it, but they everybody starts texting me about the awesome race at Knoxville and all these lead changes, and then all of a sudden, sounds like Huddy found the berm,
Yeah.
and it was lights out those last 13 laps. And tell me a little bit about that race, about how your car obviously got much better as the race went on.
Yeah, absolutely. Wasn't bad at the beginning of the race, but the top of the racetrack was the cushion was still pretty low and the top had a lot of moisture, so the top was just keeping up with the bottom really well, but I could run that berm really good, and I think I found that a little bit on Friday night, that I could get up on that berm and make some good laps. And so as the race went on and the racetrack kept getting slicker and slower and the tops kept widening out a little bit, the more that bottom kept getting a little bit better and a little bit better. And so finally I started 15th and I got to about 5th or 6th and I was like, oh man, like I'm just as good as these guys. I think I have a shot to win this thing. And then obviously we had some key restarts and I was able to restart on the bottom, which helped me and was able to kind of just pick my way through there. Me and Devin raced really hard for a long time. And then finally, I think he got his tires hot out there in the racetrack trying to run with me in the bottom. Um, and then I was able to just inch away from him.
I don't know if 8 seconds is inching away in my playbook, but yeah, let's go with that. But so tell me about obviously your first win at Knoxville. Was it cool to get one there?
Yeah, it was. That was a place, yeah, like you said, I've never won it. I've been really close to winning there a few times, but I never had. And yeah, Knoxville's so cool. I know it's not obviously the race for us isn't near what it is for you guys, but
Yeah.
um to go there and even though I'm not there for the Knoxville Nationals, you still can walk in there and you can see the prestige and you can see why it is what it is for you guys in the sprint cars and all that. And we have a little bit of that, but we only have like 10% of what you guys have at the Nationals. But when you're coming into town, I noticed on Wednesday night whenever I was pulling into the racetrack and you come into town and you have the big flag and there's this little bitty town in Knoxville and then you pull up and there's just this ginormous grandstands right there off the road and you're like, "Oh my gosh, it looks like a coliseum," you know what I mean? So it's really it's a cool place and it's a lot of fun to race whenever it gets like it was. Friday night was a great race, Saturday night was a great race and yeah, I was just fortunate to have found that berm and be able to drive up through there and get me one. And now hopefully they make some more of them banners. I noticed on them banners it had the sprint car Knoxville Nationals champion and the late model Knoxville Nationals champion. So maybe they'll make one and I'll be on that next year.
Well, you got to find one of those guys and say, "Hey, can I borrow your post for a couple days?" At least when we're there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and or maybe talk to them. That would be kind of cool. They should do something for you guys. But I want to also say, you know what? We get Knoxville at the Mecca, but you guys get Fairbury, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Fairbury is really, really cool. And used to, I didn't really care too much about Fairbury or the PDC whenever I was younger. But now as I've got older, I think it's getting bigger every year too. It just continues to get bigger.
Oh
But
yeah.
man, there's a lot of prestige around that place, and it's really cool to drive into town. Same kind of Knoxville feeling. You drive into town and it's just a quiet little subtle town and then Fairbury.
We've talked about a lot of tracks, and I just got to ask, if you have to pick one favorite track that you're going to go to and hope to have success that you enjoy racing at, do you got a favorite track out there?
Well, besides Brownstown, I love Brownstown for it being my home racetrack, but probably my favorite racetrack to race on is Marshalltown, Iowa.
Oh, really?
Yep.
And give me a reason. And you know what? If you ever watched the stock car races, the IMCA stock car races there, they are amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
the first time I ever went there, we ran our race and I made it a point. I was like, I'm going up here to watch this stock car race. I am not missing it.
yeah. And was it worth the wait?
It was absolutely worth the wait. These guys were all over each other. They ran 3 wide, 4 wide, sliding each other. It was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. And so I can see why you say that. So James told me to ask you a question, and I've just thought about it right now. He said maybe you had a notion that you wanted to be a sprint car driver for at least 30 seconds in your life at some point. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I did. Through like 2007, 16, 17, 18, I was dabbling in like some outlaw carts and some 410 non-wing cars, some midget cars. I was racing all kinds of that stuff. I probably ran 5 or 6 midget races, ran 2 or 3 410 non-wing races, and I had a lot of fun with it, man. It was a cool time in my life that I was able to do a lot of different racing right there, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And yeah, there for a short time, I was really thinking hard about, I wasn't really thinking that I ever want to do anything different than late models, but I was definitely thinking like, man, maybe I need to race some more of this stuff. And then I started to realize it was kindly dangerous a little bit, especially what I was racing. I wasn't racing anything with a wing on it. I was 410 non-wings and midgets and all that stuff. And it just, and then my schedule kept getting busier and busier. And yeah, it was just tough to balance it all. And on top of that, to, uh, to be competitive every time I went to the racetrack, not running that stuff very often, and then trying to go and race against like Logan Seavey and all them guys was tough. And yeah, so I do think that it helped me in a lot of ways to run all that different stuff. In our genre of racing, like Ricky races a lot of different things, and man, that's really great for a race car driver to go and run all those different things and have a lot of different feels. And I really think it makes you a better racer.
The thing I was going to tell you too, and it's probably not good for a guy that has problems with his joints popping in and out.
No, no, not at all. And then, so we skipped right over. I had a knee surgery in 2020 too, so that was
Okay.
yeah. So that was yeah. I'm not gonna say my body's bad, but my joints are not great.
Was that during the off season, that surgery?
In 2020,
Yeah.
I had surgery in November. Yeah.
Okay. One other thing I was thinking I want to run by you. You race what's cool about what you guys do in the super late model deal is you can get the Lucas Oil and the World of Outlaw late model guys together quite a bit during the course of the year. If you got a race side by side for the last 30 laps of a race for 100 grand to win, who do you trust the most in a super late model to race you clean side by side? May the best guy win. One
Probably
driver.
Probably Jonathan Davenport. He is probably one of the cleanest racers we have in our sport. And yeah, he'll show you a lot of respect. He'll race you hard, but he shows you a lot of respect. And yeah, that's if I was gonna run side by side with anybody, it'd be that guy.
Cool. Thanks. Huddy, I know you got a lot of racing coming up, and I know this weekend is a home game, and I hope the fans get to see you and your dad on the front row of that heat race slugging it out, or maybe better yet, on the front row of that A main. And I know you're super busy, but I appreciate you taking an hour out of your time today just to visit with us and share some stories, open up a little bit, which I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot about, and I, like I said, I love the super late miles. I just wish I could be more with them sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this was a lot of fun. Probably truthfully, since everything has happened over the last couple of years of my career and all the turmoil and stuff, I don't really know that I've had a chance to really sit down and kind of discuss it all and how I feel about it and tell everybody what I think. And yeah, so it was a lot of fun to get to talk about all that and to get to talk to you about some things I haven't thought about in a long time, racing crate cars and stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, look forward to it, and hopefully we can do it again in the future.
Here's what we got to do then. I got to get you and Tessa, whoever runs your social media stuff, once I get this broadcast out, I needed to share it so the late model people get a chance to see it. And hopefully we can get it out. And like I said, I learned a lot about you, and I just love kicking back and hearing the stories from you guys.
That's right. Well, I appreciate it, and we'll definitely do it.
All right. Huddy, thanks again. Hopefully I'll see you soon. I know I'll see you at Charlotte for sure, right, at the World Finals.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks again, bud.
Thank you.
All right. Like I said, with Huddy right before we got off the air there, great stuff. Huddy did a great job, and I learned a lot of stuff about him. Love the late model guys. When you get them to sit down and talk, they've got great stories, and it was just great getting to hear a lot about Huddy's, about his history, how he got started, some of the stuff that happened in 2024, which was, some really big stories in the late model world too. And I appreciate him opening up about that stuff too. Was great to hear and great to get educated on too. So, appreciate everybody for tuning in again this week. Like I said, it's been a while, but we're going to hopefully get some more stuff out for you here in the very near future. Like I always say, if you like what I'm doing here and you enjoy the content, give me a follow, hit that subscribe button, hammer that follow button, share my stuff. I just couldn't appreciate it more than that. We're going to get on out of here for the week. I'm going racing out in Ohio this weekend with my buddy Donnie Schatz. I'll be back next week. Hopefully I know I've got a guest lined up. I'm hoping we can get things lined up with him. And if we do, I think you're going to really enjoy that sprint car driver that we're going to talk to next week. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you on the other side.